Welcome to the PropTech podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collides. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. Now, the aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and to explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. And my guests in this episode are Burton and Dominik Chmielewski from Rental Heroes, a natural language chatbot called Alex that is now assisting 37,000 tenants across Australia by handling their property-related questions and issues. Prior to getting together to set up Rental Heroes, Ben held senior leadership positions in both the telecommunications and insurance sectors, specialising in customer service digitization, while Dom, who also has a telecommunications background, has complementary experience in project management and supply chain management. Now, Alex uses an app most of us already have on our phones, namely Facebook Messenger. So, Dom and Ben from Rental Heroes, welcome to the PropTech podcast.
Thank you very much for having us.
It's great to have you here. So, who's taking it? What's the elevator pitch for Rental Heroes?
So, look, in short, our AI chatbot Alex, he helps PMs by handling everyday tenant requests and issues, including maintenance. So instead of picking up the phone or email, tenants can interact with Alex via Facebook Messenger, which is a platform that we find that about 85% of tenants already use across Australia.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So what's the problem that Rental Heroes is solving in a bit more detail? Like, why do we need to be talking on Facebook Messenger?
Yeah, good question. So really what we're trying to do is remove the ping pong and the back and forth conversations that are taking place between tenants, landlords, trades and property managers. And the way we do this is to really try to deliver a self-service outcome in the first instance. And we do that through our friendly chatbot, Alex, who, as we've mentioned, runs on Facebook Messenger. And Alex can do things like resolve your electrical fault and advise you how to reset your circuit breaker. And Alex can also answer common questions such as if you're in arrears, when's your rent due, that kind of stuff. The nice thing that we've done with Alex is you can basically talk to us or talk to Alex the way you would talk to your property manager. So that means natural language. And then for those people that maybe aren't comfortable or used to using a chatbot, we also have a visual menu with lots of little icons, and you can select your issue sort of using that menu as well. And whenever a tenant identifies what their issue is, Alex will offer them all the steps to resolve the problem. And if Alex is unable to resolve the problem, then basically he will transfer that request directly into the property manager's CRM system. So that can be things like Property Tree, Property Me, or all the common ones that are out there. And through that natural language conversation, Alex will find out how long the issue's been going for, where it is, ask the tenant to provide any photos. So the idea is that when it hits the property manager's CRM system, they're good to go. They don't have to go back. They don't need any more information, and it's all ready for them to action, which might be getting landlord approval or organising a trade. And the really nice thing about Alex is he's 24/7. Because he's integrated directly into those CRMs, he can answer all those questions. And it really saves the property manager from those repetitive, low-level tasks and frees them up to focus on higher value things.
And so if he can't help or if he hasn't resolved the problem, does that flag in the CRM that the property manager needs to take an action?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So depending on the type of inquiry, so if it's a maintenance inquiry, then that will be generated directly as a job in the CRM system. And most property managers are sort of using that as their central sort of hub for their day-to-day activity. So it just pops up in there, sort of in that inbox. If it's a non-maintenance inquiry, such as maybe like, I'd like a copy of my lease or something along those lines, we basically create it as a task. And it can be sort of like an email notification as well. So that they know that there's this request waiting for them and they have to get back to the tenant.
Awesome. Okay, so where does the name Alex come from?
Good question. So we wanted to come up with a name that was sort of gender neutral, so that it would appeal to everyone. I think maybe people are naturally sort of tending to Alex being a boy, but that wasn't sort of our intention. That's sort of how it's come about. And yeah, we just wanted something really simple, easy. Something that people would sort of relate to, not set up any sort of weird expectations, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how did you guys come up with the idea? What's your background?
So for many years, Ben and I, so we've been friends for a long time, and we've sort of worked in large corporations for a long time, and we really thought that at some point we'd like to start a business together. And we're not from property, which is interesting. So we're more from telco backgrounds and insurance and Bupa and sort of a whole mix of companies. And so we, over sort of various pub conversations, we spent endless hours talking about what we do one day. And I think our heads sort of kept coming back to the sort of the prop tech space and some of the issues that property managers deal with and how can we sort of make that whole experience better for everyone. And so we sort of had our idea, and we decided that we weren't sort of 100% certain how to go about things, because obviously coming from a large organization is very different from running your own business day to day. And so we joined an accelerator program, and that's where for 6 months we were part of the Stockland Blue Chile PropTech Accelerator, and that's really where they sort of helped us hone our ideas, and effectively that's where our big grand plans really sort of turned into Alex, and we sort of got to trial him and sort of get our first sort of feedback as to whether the market would like a product like this.
Okay, awesome. So how big is the problem of dropped communication in rentals? How big a problem is that in Australia and globally?
Yeah, so look, our best estimates, looking at the Australian market, we think the property services space, so that is the fees that landlords pay to property managers, residential but also commercial, is worth about $8 billion. Ooh. And we think that if you expand that to sort of US, New Zealand and UK, which are markets that we're moving into, that expands to about 180 billion. Now, obviously, we're a subset of that. But look, we've spoken to hundreds, if not thousands, of property managers. And our sense is that about 30% of time is spent on maintenance coordination. And then you can add in some other sort of common tasks like lease renewals and am I in arrears, when's my pay to date, all these sort of common questions. So you can work back from that. So if 50% of time is spent on a $180 billion industry, that's not global, that's just some of the key markets. This problem's huge. So the opportunity to move those communications that typically take place via phone and email into an automated conversation, it's a multi-billion dollar opportunity to free up that time to be invested back into other higher value activities.
So if you take a look at any review page for real estate or property managers, it's often the rental or the tenants that have got the worst things to say about an agency. It's full of really bad reviews. I'm curious though, what made you decide to go down the Facebook route?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we actually get asked that all the time. And I think the main reason for this is people really, when they hear chatbot, I think they just imagine this sort of very text-based kind of say something, and then you get presented with a little sort of menu of 10 options, and you sort of type option 1 or option 2. So similar to choosing options over the phone, but now it's in a text-based conversation. So we really wanted to do something a bit different to that, and so the reason why we chose Facebook Messenger is it's a really rich experience. So rather than just having this sort of little menu, we're able to have images, videos, menus that you can scroll left and right in and sort of drill down into what your issue is, and that's just not possible in the other channels. Even something like WhatsApp doesn't deliver that kind of experience. So that was one main reason. The other main reason is about 80% of the population have Facebook installed. So whilst we do know there is sometimes a negative perception with Facebook and privacy issues and those kinds of problems, the reality is that the majority of people do have the app, do have Messenger. Recently, Facebook have also introduced the ability to use Messenger without having to set up a profile, so you don't have to sort of have a picture and your name and all that kind of stuff. You can basically use it as a guest. And so when you combine all of those factors together, it really made sense for us to start in that space. But having said that, we do recognise there are other channels that people want to use, such as voice. And so in the future, we will switch on other channels as well.
Okay, awesome. So what's your business model? How does Rental Heroes work?
Yeah, sure. So look, the way we make money is we charge a subscription fee to our customers, who are property management departments. And then our users are predominantly the tenant base. So the property managers pay, and in return, on a practical level, what they see is a reduction in phone calls and emails, and more data going straight into their workflow system, Property Me, Property Tree, whoever they're using, for them to action. So the tenants, who are the main users, get to enjoy Alex 24/7 for free. And it's that sort of easy access via Messenger, and the 24/7 nature and the instant response nature of the self-service tasks, which is around 50% of the volume, that's really driving that tenant adoption.
Okay, awesome. So this would work really well for Strata too, wouldn't it? Strata's so terrible.
So it does.
Sorry, Strata people.
And we're actually working with a partner called LJ Strata in Sydney on a beta version of it's not called Alex, it's a different brand name, on a beta version that does handle all of those sort of Strata use cases. So it's a whole nother level of complexity in terms of understanding, what issues are common area issues versus in-unit, etc. But the same problem exists in Strata, but also we've found in commercial as well. So in terms of the industry verticals that this sort of technology can assist with, we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but over time our strategy is to widen both industry verticals, the use cases, but also the channels for which these natural language conversations can occur in.
Okay. And now let's hear a word from our sponsors. For almost 16 years, Direct Connect has made moving easy for over 1.2 million renters and homeowners by arranging connections to a wide range of services, from electricity and gas to internet and pay TV. With a national team of local account managers who are experts in the industry, Direct Connect are there to support your real estate business with competitive rewards for every successful connection, plus an industry-leading rewards program. The connection process is simple, and Direct Connect's always-on guarantee ensures your customers will be connected on the day they move in. Direct Connect offers a range of market-leading suppliers, and Direct Connect has now made it even easier than ever to send connections directly integrating with MRI Software's Property Tree. So in just a few clicks while processing a tenancy, you can send the connection details through and get your customers connected. To make the right connection and find out how Direct Connect can make moving easy for you and easy for your customers, visit agents.directconnect.com.au or call 1300 558 169. So a typical user experience might be I come home from work, or I'm working from home, and the hot water dies on me, and so I ring my agent and leave a message, and then wait for them to call me back to tell them that, the hot water's broken. I wait for them to call me back in, the following day. When they haven't called me back, I call them again, or I send them an email. And then and as you go, your level of frustration kind of goes until that poor property manager who's getting the same kind of thing from every other person on a rent roll finally gets back to you. And then she sets an appointment to have someone check the hot water service, and within 2 weeks maybe your hot water service has probably been fixed, or you get told, the pilot light was out. So how is it different under Rental Heroes?
Yeah, really, really good question. So Alex.
I love that you think all my questions are good, Tom.
Sorry, I guess I'm trying to be like really, really nice.
No, I'm feeling very validated.
So how it's different using Alex compared to sort of the experience that you've just described. So Alex is aware of the time of day. Alex is also aware of what is sort of considered an urgent issue versus a non-urgent issue as defined in the Residential Tenancies Act. And so combining that with the example that you gave of sort of the hot water system not working, rather than that email process that you described or possibly the phone call conversation, Alex will basically offer you some self-help to try and fix that problem. So if you have an electric hot water system, chances are it's the circuit breaker that's tripped. It may not be that, but it's a 3-second thing to check if it is, and it could, for example, remove all of those subsequent steps that you described and get the hot water back on straight away. Similarly, if it's a gas hot water system, it might be that pilot light that's gone out, and again, it's something that maybe some tenants or most tenants can relight and get it going again. So we'll go through those steps first. And if it turns out that it's not something simple like that, then Alex will log that issue, as mentioned earlier, directly into sort of the workflow system or the CRM. But what Alex will also do is then, from the property manager's perspective, give the tenant the option of organising the preferred property manager trade right there and then. So in the case of a hot water system, it will say, yep, this is an urgent issue. If it cannot wait until the next business day, here's the contact details of the agency's preferred plumber. Give them a call. They should be able to assist. So at least if it's 8 or 9 p.m. at night, the tenant can get resolved straight away. But Alex is still logging all of this so that then when the property manager is back at work the next day, they can see exactly what happened, who was called, and then they can say follow up from a invoice reconciliation perspective or getting, following up with the landlord.
So the property manager sets the parameters around at what point you can start ordering plumbers, right?
Some property managers choose to allow tenants to call the preferred trades direct. Other property managers prefer to have the on-call emergency number, and they have a property manager there that sort of receives those requests. So we support either of those models. The other thing that's quite nice is we can again send, in addition to the job going directly into Property Me or Property Tree, we can send SMS notifications, emails, and again, all of that is customizable for how the property manager likes to operate.
Okay, awesome. So I don't just sort of report into the void and hope that it gets fixed and hope someone gets back to me. I start to see some answers, and if it does have to be fixed professionally, I start to get like a bit of a status update.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. So the communication is two-way. So obviously the tenant sort of initiates those communications, but then there are various updates that come through as the task progresses through the various stages of the workflow, which might be again getting approvals or looking for trades, quotes, that kind of stuff. That information will be fed back directly to the tenant. So again, that means the property manager doesn't need to be sort of sending those updates. The system will take care of that.
Okay. So now you guys were part of the Blue Chili Stockland Accelerator back in 2019. Where are you? What stage are you at now? Like, how big are you? How did 2020 treat you?
Yeah. So look, 2020 was the year when we really first hit our stride in the residential space. Mm-hmm. So through the Blue Chili program in 2019, we developed an MVP product. We did some trials with our partner Stockland, and then we launched Alex as a commercial product in about January 2020. So we've sort of grown since then, and we finished up the last year with just over 200 property managers on our platform. And over 37,000 tenants on our platform. In terms of sort of where we're at the moment, we're sort of growing at about 2 to 3 new branches per week. So we're onboarding 2 to 3 real estate shop fronts. In terms of what's next, we've seen an incredible reaction to the market, and I think COVID's been on a personal level very challenging for us and many people. But on the flip side, it also means that we don't have to go physically from branch to branch anymore. We have Zoom calls every day. It's really been quite efficient in terms of building momentum for our business.
Even property managers are owning the Zooming, right?
Absolutely, the PMs are embracing it, and I mean it's quite interesting. At the start of the pandemic, I would say on average it probably took about 3 to 4 minutes before we all sorted out our audio and got synced up. Now 9 out of 10 times the Zoom call starts straight away. Everyone knows how to do it, and it's the same for all tech, I think.
Yeah.
But look, what's really exciting, Kylie, is we are currently just about to close our seed capital raising round, which will give us an injection of funding.
Right.
And that is going to allow us to take things to the next level in terms of features and how fast we create those features, but also in terms of our ability to get around the country virtually to really promote Rental Heroes a little bit more as well.
Awesome. So you going to tell us how much you're looking to raise, or is that
no, yeah, absolutely. We spend every moment that we're not on calls to property managers on calls to investors.
Pitching, yeah.
So we're raising $1 million. Our lead investor is a VC fund called Investable, based out of Sydney, and we've closed about 60% of our $1 million raise. So we're actually still out actively seeking in the next 3 weeks about the final 400K of the $1 million round. So off the back of that, I'll give ourselves a plug. If you're interested in prop tech, obviously we'd love to chat to you.
All right, and we will put your contact details in the show notes so potential investors can reach out. So look, but there's a lot of competition in this space, isn't there? There's like a lot of competition in both the automation of property management and in the whole kind of rental experience in space. So who do you see are your main competitors, and how do you guys reckon you compare?
Yeah, sure. So I might answer the compare bit first. So look, we've very deliberately built our platform and positioned ourselves as an interaction layer. So we are a communication interaction layer, and we do conversational AI really well. That's been our background and our experience, in other industries. What we don't want to do is replicate other systems that do workflow automation very well. Right. So we're not trying to create maintenance workflow systems again. We're not trying to create features around trust accounting. What we're trying to do is create a platform that tenants love to use, so that instead of, and a lot of our customers sort of tell us this, instead of maybe 1 in 10 tenant requests going through a tenant app or a portal, we're driving that usage right up to close to the 50% mark, and it will go even higher as we turn on extra channels. That simply means that we're acting as another channel, another digital gateway to get that data out of phone and emails and put into the best of breed workflow system that the property manager chooses. So I think that's a slightly different approach to some of our competitors. So of course, some of the maintenance workflow systems that exist out there, some of them are fantastic products and our friends. We're not competing with those guys. All we're doing is grabbing more jobs once we've tried to do the self-help and the troubleshooting if we can, and putting it into those systems. So it's going to work the same way beyond our sort of current integration set. So once we have completed our CRM integrations, which is our biggest priority at the moment. So we're currently working with Voltare and Console to get those guys on board. And then we've got Palace, Property Me, Property Tree, and IRE as well. Once we've got all of those core systems that I guess are in the central part of lifecycle management of a tenancy, we're going to move upstream, and we're going to really see whether we can use this conversational AI to assist with the other big workload of property managers, which is inquiries about new property listings and the details around those listings, for example.
Awesome.
So we're never going to replace these core systems. We're just going to make it easier to get data into those systems through our conversational gateway.
Right. So you guys are, an inch wide and a mile deep in terms of conversational support and communication support around rental.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to give you a sort of sense of the complexity of because conversational AI, It sounds.
It's a whole specialty area, isn't it? No, it's a whole specialty area in itself. So no,
But we've, I think we keep account. The last time I looked I think we've seen about what we call intents. So these are specific actions or outcomes, and we've seen over 450 of them. And on average, we see about 10 different ways that you may ask that request. So you put all of that into a big machine, and that creates quite a complicated use case for a bot to have a conversation and get it right. So we think there's the need to have companies that really specialise in this use case for property management.
Okay, awesome. As a real estate agent, you need to be doing more content marketing. But creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial. Or click the link in our show notes. Because that's one of the issues that I hear a lot from friends of mine who rent, and that is that while they're more than happy to use, well, they're not really happy to use a specialist property management piece of tech because it's something else that they have to learn. And so the convenient, the so-called convenience of being able to, log your query or log your issue is offset by the difficulty of having to remember how to use the bloody app often. So I guess that's where the whole Facebook stuff, look, everyone uses it regularly and they know how to do it, is kind of very clever. So well done.
Thank you.
So what do the next 5 years do you guys think hold for the real estate industry and property management from where you're seeing it?
Yeah, so look, and this is a topic that's, I think, spoken about very widely, and I've read some fantastic blogs that you've written as well, Kylie. But I think property managers are truly going to be freed from the mundane day-to-day tasks. Mm-hmm. It's a slow burn. We've seen tech before. Our tech's, we think, making a giant leap in terms of accelerating that. But that creates hugely exciting opportunities for property managers to upskill and service their clients, their landlords in other ways. And we see that like a lot of the industry as being around investment management and asset management, and really being able to advise your landlords on not only how to select great assets, but how to optimise the yield that they get from those assets. And by the way, I think when the industry really evolves to this sort of specialisation, I think that's a really exciting opportunity for the next wave of tech to come along and support property managers in being fantastic investment advisors as well. I don't think we're going to see a world where suddenly, like, property managers, okay, you're now not dealing with the coordination of this maintenance task, for example. You need to advise your landlord on which one of these properties is going to have the best yield in 3 years. They'll be supported. Companies like ours are developing hugely rich data sets from what we do today that is going to evolve into supporting the roles of the future as well. And I think, just as an aside, Kylie, I think that's one of the big advantages of early adopters in this industry as well, who do take on and partner with companies like ours that are getting involved in this really powerful AI tech. It's not just that you're going to have an Alex chatbot today that reduces your phone calls and emails. It's the fact that you're starting to learn about this technology and you're starting to go on the journey that we're going on as we get more funding and build out more features and are able to do more and more powerful things with the data that we're collecting as well. So quite frankly, I mean, the guys that that do take the risk today and put this new technology in, they're setting themselves up for the future in terms of the lead advantage that they have as this industry morphs into a focus on adding value to investors.
Mm. Oh, look, I'll have to hook you guys up with PIPA, the Property Investor Professionals Association of Australia. I probably got that wrong. I'm on the advisory board, and property investment advice is a really sort of complicated beast in that you should have credentials, or PIPA manages credentials to make sure that you're dealing with a proper professional in that space who's done the training and knows what they're talking about. But because investment is covered by national legislation, but property is all state-based, there's a lot of mess in there. So I might hook you guys up.
That would be great. Thank you.
No worries. So what does the future look like for Rental Heroes? You've got your funding coming up, your next round of funding. What else is on the agenda?
So there is a huge list for us to do, but to perhaps just pick a couple and perhaps the more immediate sort of steps. So we will widen our channels. So we love Facebook Messenger, but not everyone uses Messenger. So we want to make sure that we've got 100% coverage of channels.
Mm-hmm.
Integrations is a big one for us. We learned very early in our life in property that you cannot have multiple systems to log into. If it doesn't integrate, folk aren't interested. They're just too busy to be trained up on multiple systems, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So we will keep expanding our integrations. And as I mentioned, we're really excited to get into the whole listing space as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then perhaps just a little bit more futuristic, it's about predictive prompts within the chat conversations themselves. And this is a very exciting topic that we could spend a long time talking about. But the chatbot at the moment is reactive.
Right.
So when a tenant has an issue, they go to Alex and Alex will help them solve that issue. In the future, it's not too far-fetched to think about Alex supporting issues before they become issues.
And how does that work?
So a common use case could be predictive maintenance, for example. So really starting to understand the life cycle of certain appliances, understand the detail around troubleshooting at a specific appliance level, and helping out in a much richer way when those sorts of issues pop up. But it's only limited basically by the data that products like ours are able to collect and make use of in terms of helping property managers and tenants solve issues essentially before they even become issues. So that's a little bit longer term, and I'm deliberately being a little bit cryptic because it is a conversation that we could get into that's very exciting, that deserves the actual time to dig a bit deeper as well.
Okay, so now I've got one last question, because in the digital marketing world where I come from, there's this whole issue around sort of rented versus owned media. And when you're doing stuff or building stuff on Facebook or any of the social platforms, there's always that issue of, well, the content that you've put on there or the information that you've shared on it, you don't own it. And if Facebook changes the terms and conditions, then you risk losing everything you've got. So how are you guys managing that as a chatbot? I know that you said that you're about to launch new communication channels, but is that a risk in your business?
So Kylie, look, the reality there is it is tough, right? Because you're absolutely identifying a risk where Facebook could change the rules. And when we look at, for example, Europe, and we see the GDPR regulations that are coming in there, that is already having an impact on the chatbot experience. So various things that, for example, we are taking for granted here, such as being able to sort of determine location of the user under the European rules, that's no longer allowed. Right. So that does change the experience. But the nice thing about this is we're able to look at what's going on in other markets and develop strategies to mitigate those and to work in maybe a different way, but still trying to deliver that same outcome as as best possible we can in whatever framework is available. So yes, Facebook may change the rules, and we do everything we can to be sort of one step ahead and be aware of what's coming and prepare for that as best we can. And a diverse channel strategy is one way to do that. But there are other things that we will do in the future as well.
And the other thing probably just to add is the AI, which is the power that sits behind the conversation that's had within Messenger.
Yep.
That doesn't live in Facebook. That's a
awesome.
proprietary product that Rental Heroes has built. So whilst we like Messenger because of all of those rich experiences that Dom spoke to earlier, mm-hmm. we're not held to hostage as such by Messenger, because the power is the conversational AI piece that sits behind it.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for answering that. I was quite curious to see how that would that would play out. Well, look, Dom and Ben, it's been awesome to see you both because we're doing this over video, but it's been great to talk to you today and to hear about Rental Heroes. Good luck with it this year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kylie.
Keep up the good work. So that was Ben and Dom, co-founders of Rental Heroes, a natural language AI chatbot that allows tenants to report maintenance issues and ask questions about their leases using the Facebook Messenger app. Now, there's a lot of activity in the tenant communication and engagement space, but one of the downsides of those user experiences is that they often rely on tenants to download and use a specific app to report and track their issues. And look, we all know that if you're using a piece of technology only once or twice a year, most of us are going to avoid it, and we won't find it particularly convenient, because learning a new app is something that most of us just find to be a pain in the backside. So while on the surface Rental Heroes might seem quite simple, there's actually a lot of elegance in their solution, because Facebook Messenger is something we already have on our phones and something we're all really comfortable using, so adoption is easy. And as any good techie will tell you, making something seem really simple is actually one of the hardest things to do. There's a lot of thinking that goes behind something seamless. But Rental Heroes is experiencing 30% month-on-month growth and has 48 offices on their books. Not bad for a startup that's only 2 years old. So well done, Dom and Ben, and looking forward to seeing the app move over into the sales space as well. Now, as the pair mentioned, Rental Heroes is seeking a 1 million early stage funding round off the back of a 4 million pre-valuation. So if you like the sound of Rental Heroes, I've included the emails of Dom and Ben in the show notes. Drop them a line and they will send you more details. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech podcast, I'd love you to tell your friends or drop me a line either via email, LinkedIn, or on our Facebook page, which you can find at Kylie Davis PropTech. You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes and Anchor, and where all good podcasts are heard. And I'd love it if you could subscribe or leave me a review. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie and Sam Hollins, and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors Direct Connect, making moving easy, Smidge Wines by Matt Wenk, handcrafted and highly awarded wines, and Home Prezzo, now part of ActivePipe and making marketing automation easier than ever before. If you haven't got the scalable agent, go to the ActivePipe website and download a copy. Now, if you are a PropTech, also make sure that you join the PropTech Association of Australia. Why? Well, because it means you can enter the very first ever PropTech Awards. We've got 21 awards up for grab for startups, scale-ups, and even established real estate and property technology suppliers. So check out proptechassociation.com.au, go to the awards page, and it's easy to enter, and entries close March 19. So chop chop. So thanks everyone. Until next week, keep on PropTeching.